Hello. This is Vincenzo Fiorino, and this is my science fair project. The title of the project was Splashdown. The purpose for this project or question is, can you dewaterlog a baseball? And so the basis around the project is, well, it's a baseball is normally 5 ounces, and then when it gets waterlogged, it becomes more weight because it sits in rain, or it'll sit under a bush and the dew, it'll collect dew, and it raises in ounces. So I thought of, what if I could dewaterlog it and get it back to normal weight? My hypothesis: if I want a baseball in a certain amount of water, then I think the sun will reduce the most weight, um, and get it closest to normal through my two experimentals, which is a freezer and a sun, or outdoors air, pretty much. Variables: independent was time, dependent was weight, and the constant is the baseballs are all the same weight at the beginning of the experiment. Materials: a bucket of water, there's the sun, there's the freezer, 6 baseballs, a scale, towel, notebook, and table. My procedure, it's pretty simple. I just get 6 baseballs in a bucket for a certain amount of time. There's 2 for 1 through 3 hours, so 6 balls, 2 for each level. Um, I put 1 from each hour in the freezer, and then keep it in there for the corresponding time. So if it would go in for 1 hour in the soaking for 1 hour in the bucket, I would put it in for 1 hour in the freezer, just to make it even. Weigh the baseball after its time in the freezer, and then repeat with the sun and record your data. I recorded my data after the freezer and then also after the sun. Tables for the freezer. This is, so original weight, like I mentioned earlier, is 5. These are all original weight when the experiment begins, right at the beginning, which is when they're soaking. So when the 1 hour ball came out, it was 8.1 ounces, and the weight after the freezer was 8.5. It actually went up because it froze in there, and all the water just stuck in there and it wouldn't go out like I had hoped. And then with the next hour too, it was started out when I put it in the freezer at 8.65. It went down just 0.05 an ounce, give or take a little. It didn't really do much, but I think it didn't go up because it had more time to like have the water maybe seep out through the little tiny holes in the baseball, because the baseball is just leather on the outside composed with yarn and a string in the inside, and it usually has a hard rubber core. So there's little tiny holes in the leather, like there's little tiny holes in our skin, because leather, of course, is our steers or longhorns or cow skin, whatever you want to call them. And then with 3 hours, original weight was 9 ounces, and it went down to 0.3 of an ounce. So it wasn't really much, but it did go down a little bit because it had more time for the water just to seep out of there when it froze. And then with the sun, the hours 1, 2, and 3, original weight 8.05 for 1, and then went down to 7.8 ounces. So it reduced 0.2, which is something what I was expecting for 1 hour, because um it's not out there for that long. Now 8.5, ounces was for the 2-hour ball, and it actually went down over half an ounce. So that was pretty good. So far, for 2 hours to go down 0.6 ounces is pretty good. And these numbers aren't exactly to the number. This wasn't a scale that showed you the to the thousandth place decimal. This is just I have a little kitchen scale, and it tells you the amount of ounces. It goes up to a pound. So it's not, if you're familiar with this kitchen scale, it's like it has this needle, and then you when you put the thing you're weighing on it, the object, depending on how much force is on it, it goes down, and depending on how much the area that holds on to the object goes down, it tells you how much weight it is. But it doesn't bring up, like I said, to the thousandth decimal place. And then the one that was the most successful out of all tests, the 3 hours on the sun, it started out almost 9 ounces, so a little bit lighter than the freezer. And it ended up going down over an ounce, which is better than I expected, actually, for 3 hours. These are some pictures. These are two of the baseballs after soaking, but before the experiment started. This is outside. And this is actually some ice on the baseball that was in for 3 hours. And as you can see, in the freezer, of course, not in the sun. Wouldn't develop ice from the sun. And the water, it was warm. It wasn't warm, it wasn't cold. It was like room temperature water. It wasn't, maybe a little bit colder. It wasn't freezing or anything like that though. And yeah, that's ice. And as you can see on the ball, it's actually, the ink ran a little bit from sitting in the water and from when the water was coming out in the freezer. Results in analysis. The freezer, after the baseballs went into the freezer, some baseball, which is just the 1 hour ball, became heavier. The freezer froze the water inside of the baseball, and it did not let it go out on the 1 hour baseball. And on the 2 hour baseball, it didn't really have a chance to come out of the baseball because it was just such a short time. But however, on the 3 hour ball, it did get a little lighter because it had more time. However, the balls later, after the experiment was over, after I wrote down all of my notes and everything, they got to normal weight, 5 ounces, before the ones than the sun did after the experiment, because it all melted out really quickly. Once the baseballs came back to room temperature, they just all melted out. With the sun did reduce the weight quicker than the freezer during the experiment, which is a 3-hour time span. And yeah, that's pretty much it. In conclusion, the sun did reduce the most weight, therefore my hypothesis was correct. For further research, I think I could maybe included another way to dry out the baseballs. And also a longer time. I was thinking maybe an oven at low temperature, maybe 150, 180 degrees, somewhere in that range, so you can monitor it and the baseball won't explode inside the oven. And also, this is just, it probably won't work, but you could try to put it in a broil inside a pot. I was thinking of that too, but it's in water, so it might not do it, but since it's hot, it could. I'm not sure. I didn't try that. Also, I was thinking I could do it for a longer time span, meaning if I did it for a day, let's say I did it for a day, most of those baseballs would all be about to be at normal weight of 5 ounces. Thank you for listening. And are there any questions? Have a great day.